Hello, aviation operations students. I would like to introduce you to Ian Courtney. He is the Assistant Chief Pilot for Lifeflight Network in Montana. And so I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself, how he got there, and what he likes about his job. Ian, welcome.
Thank you very much, Heidi. It's good to be here. Hi, everybody. So I'm a retired military guy. I did 21 years in the Marine Corps, flying the venerable CH-46, that's this right here, affectionately known as the Frog. Got some war tours and a lot of exciting flying in the Marine Corps. Couple of tours at the Presidential Helicopter Squadron, that's that one right there. So I got some VIP, which if you want to talk offline, I'll tell you my true feelings about supporting that. But I got into helicopter air ambulance back when it was called Emergency Medical Service, or EMS. They've since changed the name, because they don't want people, feeling that this is an emergent situation all the time, because sometimes that forces people to do things that they might normally not do in a risky situation. We can talk about that, particularly weather, where it comes into play. But so I did that flying for Children's National Hospital out of Washington, D.C. for a number of years. And then I worked for another provider out there flying the same thing in the D.C. area for about 8 years total. And then I'm originally from Missoula and went to school there at MSU. And I'll tell you about that a little bit. But yeah, so I saw the job opening for a manager, and I'm not sure, pilots really want to be managers. At some point, you got to get old and, step back a little bit. And was what I did. Came back to Missoula and took this job. And I've got amazing pilots that work for me, and I get to fly a lot. So it's a really good job for me back here in Missoula. And I wanted to get back to Montana, which I hope all of you can understand. I've been doing this job now as a manager for 2 years, coming up on 2 years for Lifeflight Network. It's a great company and a lot of exciting things going on in our world.
So what are you looking for in pilots when you are looking at hiring pilots?
All right, so if you, I manage the rotary wing folks. We have some fixed wing pilots as well. So a handful of years ago, there was a rash of accidents in the EMS industry. And it was, as you guys know, probably from studying safety, a lot of it has to do with pilot error. And there wasn't a lot of oversight on the industry or regulation. So it's really changed a lot. And insurance as well and liability has driven us to pick people with higher hours and more experience. So we're looking for pilots with, 2,500 hours of rotary wing time to bring them on to fly helicopters. We're also looking for 2,500 of pilot and command time. We are single pilot for the most part for financial reasons. It's cheaper. A lot of single engine work as well. In Montana, we're all VFR, but there are IFR programs that we have out in the Seattle area, and our company has basically bases all in the Northwest. We're the largest non-for-profit in the area, actually in North America. Anyway, of that time, that rotary wing time, we request, or we want a guy to have a guy or a gal to have 1,500 hours of turbine time as well, because everything we fly has got a jet in it, and second class medical and a commercial pilot's license with an instrument rating. So that's pretty much the baseline. We try to find folks who have prior EMS or HAA experience, just because it's easier to train them in the challenging environment that we work in when they come in and they kind of already know the flow. I would say that it comes down to hours and pilot experience, because if you ask a pilot, we are all the best pilot, right? We're all awesome. But really, we work in a crew served environment and we fly with medical crews. So HAA in particular have a nurse on board and a flight paramedic. Now you have 3 people that are all type A personalities in the same cockpit. So there has to be a personality aspect to the person that we hire. I need to make sure that they can get along with the other people in the aircraft, that they can make good, sensible decisions based on a positive and sometimes negative feedback, and be able to accept that and do the safe and the right thing and have the character to do it. So we really look into the person. You'll note that aviation resumes have a lot of numbers on them. And so it's our job to dig deeper and find that right person that fits our model. In the HAA world, it's not Alaskan bush pilot stuff. It's very regulated, particularly because of those accidents that happen and the liabilities. And we're flying patients. Not to say we don't go into very challenging environments and areas, but the flying that we do is very benign. So you can't roll to 60 degrees angle of bank with a patient in the back. It's just not the way we fly. We have a crew working in the back on a very sensitive, administering drugs. They're monitoring heart rates and bodily functions and stuff. So we can't be jamming around in the aircraft. Our aircraft have cameras in the cockpit. They have flight data recorders that's constantly sending feedback. We pull cards, we run parameters. We have a separate department that looks through all those, and it'll flag certain maneuvers, and we'll contact the pilots and find out, hey, what happened here where you had to go, to 50 degrees angle of bank, for example. Most of those are search and assist, because we do help out on those when we have someone, maybe in the river or something. But just so that we are very regulated that way. The other reason that we do that, of course, for safety, but the other reason we do it is it's very expensive to operate helicopters. And when people go and bang them around, it costs us money. So you don't want your aircraft to be in bad state of repair. So we monitor what people do with them, I guess is the best way to say that.
So if they were thinking about this as a potential, if my students were thinking about this as a potential career, would volunteering with a fire department or something that would provide them with EMS training give them a leg up in addition to their hours?
That's a great question, and we get that sometimes, and you'll see it on people's resume. It's not a prerequisite for us. I want a guy or gal who can fly the aircraft and make good sound flight decisions. We do not involve ourselves in the medical, I don't pretend that I'm a nurse or a medic when I'm out there or give advice. I do carry bags and do what I'm supposed to, to help them. They seem to be pilots sometimes though too. And they're, hey, aren't we a little low here? Or something, so a little bit of that, but no, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but
it's okay.
It won't help. But what does help, and this is kind of neat, particularly in Montana, I find everybody knows everybody. So if you were on the fire truck for a while and you ended up being in the crew, then you're going to know those guys on the ground. You're going to know the people that you're talking to on the radio. So it's almost a family in this state. Not so much, the DC area and stuff like that. It's a little more populated where I used to work, but it is a family thing. I guess to answer your question though, no, it wouldn't help you so much.
Okay.
The flying is more important.
So what do you like best? And I'm talking both from the aspect of a helicopter ambulance pilot and also as positive aspects of your job now as a manager.
All right, first off, as a pilot, when I was in the Marine Corps, we were gone all the time. I was hardly home in 21 years. So I wanted to keep flying helicopters when I got out. The problem for a helicopter pilot is just about every job you get into, whether it's Forest Service, utility, go down the list, you're almost always gone. If you're flying Gulf oil rigs or whatever the situation is, it's a very nomadic lifestyle. Of course, I have kids and the whole mess, so I wanted to be home. This is the best helicopter job if you want to be home. I'm home every day, with very few exceptions. Annual training, things that sometimes you get stuck out because of weather, there's that. But I come home every day. I work 12 hours. We're regulated on the amount of hours that we can work. And it pays well. So, and the benefits are pretty darn good, particularly with our company. So to me, it is a very good helicopter job. So I like it for that, being home. If you're more adventurous and you have no roots and you want to travel and see amazing things, highly recommend the Marine Corps for you. But there are a lot of pilots that, work up in Alaska and do crazy stuff up there too. So that's just to give you a feeling. Also, if you like to stunt fly or, really do your aerobatic skills, like the Red Bull guy, Aaron Fitzgerald, who's a friend of mine, then this might not be for you, because it can be benign. We do ask that people make adult decisions, so sometimes a little bit older guy is good too. As a manager, what do I like? It's not as awesome as flying on the line. The pilot job is the best job I've ever had. It's just amazing. The manager job's more 9 to 5. The pilot job, we would work, all night. And I love flying at night. It's just, we have these brand new white phosphorus night vision goggles, and they're just amazing. So the technology's come so far. Anyway, it's a very exciting job and fun and rewarding. The managerial job, it's rewarding to me because I have amazing pilots that work for me, and I get to go and train them, and I get to go and watch these younger folks grow, and I love that. They're very professional. I love watching what they do for the community, the lives they save, the circumstances that they go out in there. And being in weather, Montana is a very challenging state to move in. If you go around the corner, it's different than where it was. So for me to watch these very highly skilled, they're practically artists, in my opinion. I call them ninjas sometimes, but they're just so good at what they do. That's rewarding to be a part of that team.
All right. Downsides. Well,
if you're a pilot on the line, you work 7 days on. The cool thing is then you're off for 7 days, and your job is to safely operate that aircraft. That means there aren't a whole lot of other crazy responsibilities on your back, which is nice. But the downside for those guys is you work 7 nights at some point. And at 2 a.m, when you're fast asleep and that alarm goes off and you're going to go out there and fly in the darkness for hours, sometimes that can be a pain in the butt. But other than that, man, I'm telling you, it was really working the line for those 8 years for me, just best job ever. Let's see, downsides. There aren't too many. It's a cool job. There's not too many downsides to it. I guess so. From a financial standpoint, there's all different spectrums of pay. There are some remote areas, depending on what company you work for and where they have bases, and then what your seniority is. It could take you a while to get to the place that you want to be. So maybe a downside might be you have to be afloat for a while. So basically they can move you around. That's not very stable. Or you could be, at a base in the Midwest where they don't pay that well. So there's some, things that you have to work out. Just takes time and experience.
So how do you operate VFR only in Montana?
Well, so just the flip side of that coin is IFR operations in a helicopter. So once you're at 10,000 feet, oxygen levels start to go down, and some of the ceilings on these aircraft are 15,000. We regulate our guys above 9,000 for 30 minutes. If you've flown in Montana, if you had to draw a straight line and go at 9,000 feet, you might run into something, so, and radar coverage is spotty. If you're in weather in Montana, a lot of times you could be in a freezing situation, particularly for about 8 months out of the year. So is IFR feasible in Montana is another question. And I say might not be worth the investment. VFR is the way we have to operate because of those reasons, the risks of going IFR. I will say this, my guys are local and they know every corner of the state. It's very impressive. So if a guy is trying to get, like, for example, we had a flight to Kuskia the other day over in Idaho, and the guy was leaving out of Missoula. So he takes off, it's cloudy and nasty, and that sits in on top of Lolo Pass, and it's just ugly, but he knows which way to go. He knows which creeks to go down. He knows when it's so bad that he needs to turn around. And our company also has en route decision points where we mandate that below if you've slowed below a certain airspeed because you're throttling it back because you can't see as well, or if you've gone below a certain altitude because the ceilings are coming down, then you have to make a change. You have to either turn around or reroute yourself, but you can't keep going. And that's something that we mandate and monitor. VFR in Montana is very tricky, but the more experience you have locally, the better. And my guys, they do a great job of getting it done. It's very impressive.
I think that's one thing I like about this valley is that our student pilots get to experience a lot of different kinds of weather and wind and everything else. Got a lot of things that happen right here in this little valley.
They do. In fact, Montana broke the company's ground speed record last year. I think our helicopter was going 206 knots or something, which, in your plane's probably not a big deal, but helicopters don't really go much faster. For physics and aerodynamic reasons, don't go much faster than about 150 knots. So to have a 60 knot tailwind was pretty awesome.
That sounds pretty cool. So where do you think the future of this industry is going?
Oh man, that is such a great question, Heidi. It's a tough one because politics, money, insurance, and billing is such a big deal. It's a very competitive environment. And I don't understand all the billing stuff, but return on a flight hour sometimes can be low. And it just depends on how long a company can sustain a base that's not making money. Even though we're a non-for-profit, it comes down to what our payer base is. And a lot of rural Montana, some people don't have insurance, so we have to go anyway. We go to save those lives, and sometimes we won't collect the dime on launching that crew out in the middle of the night to get them in a turbine powered aircraft, and you can imagine the cost. So it's a juggling act for our business folks, and they do a very good job of it. I think we are constantly talking to insurance companies to renegotiate returns. You've probably read articles. The cost of getting a helicopter flight is pretty high. That has a lot to do with insurance driving that cost up. And then there are also like a new law that's coming out now that people need to know what it's going to cost them before they sign the papers that saying they'll take it, if they're in the right frame of mind to do that. And so, there's so many different aspects. There's something called balanced billing where the insurance, say it's a $40,000 helicopter ride and the insurance company only pays $8,000 of it. Where does our company go to collect the rest? Well, in the past, or a for-profit company will contact the patient and say, hey, your insurance company only paid 8,000 of this 40,000. Of course, then they have their next heart attack, and then so it's very tentative ground. It's tough it's tough, and it's always changing. I will say this, for our company, we're doing very well. We're getting ready to open 2 new bases. Not in Montana, unfortunately. I'd love it if we did. We're not there with the population yet, probably, but they're over in Washington. But the company is doing well. We just started and bought an existing and then built onto a huge ambulance company out of Portland. That's where our headquarters is. That's doing very well. So we own a ground ambulance company, we own a fixed wing and a rotary wing branch. We just had a great unveiling of a relationship we have with Deaconess Hospital there in Bozeman. You might have seen that in the paper. There was a great picture of me in there. It's the back of my head. So if you see that, that was me. Anyway, so we're super excited about that relationship. We're going to have a fixed wing for them, and we're going to have a big fancy new white Freightliner ambulance that we're going to run ground patients for them as well. And of course, our helicopter out of Gallatin Field. This is an amazing cruise out of there, and just a great, they have high-tech gear, and it's going to be neat. I'm excited about that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you shared a lot of great information, and I really appreciate you speaking with my students.
Well, thank you guys, and best of luck to you. You can always contact me if you have any questions. I'm happy to talk to anyone anytime.